Casual here. Welcome to my latest build guide and my continuing mission to find unique builds that are viable and are not top tree firepower based. Today I'll be looking at a Techmancer build which uses the Borealis Monarch legendary armor set. This is a great build for solo and team play. It is very tanky with high health, armor and health regeneration while still putting out enough damage to get you to CT 15. For me, this game should be about experimenting, coming up with weird builds that sometimes work and sometimes don't. So I'd encourage you all to just try different things and you might be surprised at the synergies you find. At the end of this video I will be putting up a summary of the build. Use the chapters to jump to this or to any of the sections that interest you most. Let's get into it. The core of this build is built around the 3-piece bonus you get from the Borealis gear set, which boosts your weapon damage by 90% against frozen enemies. The 10% critical hit damage it also gives to the entire party is quite handy as well. So while this is not a pure top tree build, it does focus on firepower as a primary stat. I played around with two variations of the class tree. The first variation of the class tree is strongly focused on the Techmancer class tree, making you extremely tanky with around 26,000 health, 70.7% physical damage reduction and 30% resistance. This is a good build if you're struggling to survive, but for me it's just a little low on damage output, particularly on single target elite enemies. The second variation, and the one I use, leans more into the top tree to pick up weapon damage, armor piercing and a decrease in distance of long range, making the Technomancer long range damage bonus more effective. There were a few key decisions I made with this build. Picking up weapon damage is a no-brainer given the 90% buff to this that the armor set gives, which is why the build picks up these in the top tree. On top of that, Assault Master is a great 20% buff to the weapon damage of the weapon types I like to use: LMGs, double guns, assault rifles and SMGs. The ultimates of the Pestilence tree and the Techmancer tree are very similar, buffing weapon damage by 40%. The difference between the two is that the top tree buffs weapon damage for the entire group, while the middle tree is for you alone. In addition, the middle tree also adds a self-revive mechanic. This is clearly a solo player focused ability which adds great survivability and one that I wanted in my life. Saying that, I'm not 100% sure that it procs properly. It might do instantly and I've not noticed it doing so in the heat of the battle, or it just doesn't work in the way that the tooltip reads. Speccing into the middle tree also allows us to pick up buffs to damage done to frozen enemies, freeze duration which is very useful on elite enemies, and some buffs to health regeneration, health and armor. With my final class point I picked up Wipeout, which increases all damage by 20% on enemies below 30% health. I found this to be more effective at executing elites than any of Assault Adept, Fracture or Marked for Execution. In terms of skills I am picking up both turrets and Cold Snap. I'm using the mod that converts Blighted Turret to frozen damage so that I'm able to freeze as many enemies as possible. Cryo Turret and Cold Snap are essential to this build as these activate your ultimate and its 40% weapon damage buff. On top of that, Cold Snap combined with Icicle Storm is a nuke that allows you to wipe the area of all enemies in one go. This is a key part of the playstyle for this build. Your high armor and health allow you to train packs of enemies into close proximity without dying, preferably next to any elites. Pop Cold Snap, activate Icicle Storm and you will do massive damage, and if you don't obliterate any elites you will at least get them down to a near one shot. On the time trap sections of expeditions this is particularly useful, and this build is significantly faster at this than any other builds I have played. I'm not taking blighted rounds, which might be surprising given that almost every build does. Given that this is a weapon damage build, there is a strong argument that taking it would make sense. However, you need to apply freeze to as many enemies as possible for this build to work, and so giving up one of my turrets would be a problem. I also really need a break from the noise that comes with any rounds build. Let me play my game in peace. On my helmet I'm running Ice Component to convert my Blighted Turret to freeze and stand tall. I've tried this piece with Bloodlust on it, but due to the pre-kill damage mods I have in my weapons, it doesn't proc on every enemy kill, and so I wanted something a bit more predictable, even if the upside was lower. If you are running Blighted Rounds with this build though, then Bloodlust is the mod to go with. The Borealis chest piece comes with the tier 3 mod Icicle Storm, which makes the Cold Snap skill an absolute monster. This chest piece is available from Tiago, so do pick it up as soon as possible for this great mod. I'm also using Life of the Party, which increases my damage mitigation by up to 24% when packs of enemies are around me. This is perfect for training enemies around elites and using Cold Snap to wipe them all out. When I am surrounded by a large pack, my physical damage reduction is at 95%, making me almost immune to them. You could of course run something like Perseverance Shield instead, which would provide you with time to pop Cold Snap and would also be there to prevent anomaly damage causing a 1 or 2 shot. I've put both freeze damage buffs on my legs, which clearly works well for this build. These do stack, so it's well worth putting them on if you have them. If you don't have the tier 3 mod, then I do think that running Blighted Rounds and putting on Radical Therapy is the best option for you. If you do go that route, you will want to swap Ice Component on your helmet to Toxic Lead and run Euthanizer if you have it. I have run with this variant and it works just as well, and you can take down elites a little bit quicker, so it's worth checking out. On my gloves I'm running the almost essential Captain Hunter to increase damage to elites by 25%, along with Dum Dum bullets which buffs my weapon damage by another 10%. If you don't have Captain Hunter, then there are a number of alternatives including Crit Stack, Personal Space, or you could buff your skills with Painful Chill, Increased Damage or Hail Shot. The last one might be really good once you have the Borealis Crown, and I would definitely check it out, if it ever drops. The boots of the Borealis Monarch come with Sharp Eye, which is a great firepower buff and a must for any weapon damage build. Damage Absorber gets my survivability up to a good level. My resistance is low at only 10%, so you do need to be very careful of anomaly based attacks, like the Broodmother's invisible AoE. Keep moving and you should be fine though. For my weapons you do have a number of options. Personally I went for the interesting and somewhat bizarre Daimyo. I know what you're thinking, but it's just such an awesome looking gun, and the tactical submachine gun variant is just weird. It comes with Ultimate Storm Whip, and I added in Shadow Comet, making this a real crowd clearer. With a big mag and a very short reload speed, this is just a fun gun to play with. This build does struggle a little to kill Broodmothers quickly due to their absorbing armor ability, which seems to make them more resistant to stasis effects like freeze. So I also run an LMG with armor piercing, fortress and death chains on it to help burn them down. Speaking of Fortress, running a Death Shield with a second damage dealing mod on it might be a really good combo, but I just don't personally have one right now. Another mod I looked at for this gun was Resistance Breaker, to see if this improved the impact of freeze on elites. The answer was yes, a little, but it wasn't worth losing the damage output for it. Fortress is a tough mod to get, so I would run another damage dealing mod if you don't have this. Storm Whip, Claymore, there are lots of tier 2 options you can try. If you are running the Blighted Rounds version of this build, then a tactical assault rifle like this one will suit you best. If you do have Killing Spree or Dark Sacrifice, swap these in for Fortress. 2 more that the RNG gods hate me for. The way I play this build is to always have my turrets out, look to train packs of low level enemies like the Perfora around elites, and then throw out my new Cold Snap and Icicle Storm. As always, keep moving to avoid those 1 or 2 shots. In comparison to other builds, I would put it currently just below my Toxic build. The link for it should be on the screen now. So why play this build? Well, wait until you land your first Cold Snap nuke. It's awesome. I will be publishing my firepower build by the weekend just for completeness. I know lots of other people have build guides out there on this, but I don't think enough of them focus on which mods, gear and weapons you should go for when you don't have those god roll items or tier 3 mods. Look out for it if you're still grinding through the game. Until next time, casual out.